everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at Into the Room. I'm so excited and so happy that we have here today Mr. I'm going to say Maestro Charles, better known as Chuck Dickerson, who's with us today. And Into the Room, so happy that those of you who showed up today, our new guests as well as returning guests, are here to sit in on this very exciting conversational interview with the maestro himself. Welcome, Mr. Chuck Dickerson. Now, just to give you a little bit of his background, he's originally from Los Angeles, and he has...
I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
You're originally from Philadelphia. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Born in Philadelphia, but I've spent most of my life right here in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay, okay. Great, wonderful. And so I do know you attended Cal State here. I know that.
Yeah, but that's much later in my life. I see somebody here is from Howard, and I'm glad to see it. It looks like Michael Nixon, I guess.
Hi. Okay, wonderful. I was going to get to Howard because I know you ended up attending Howard. I know you went to American University. I know you attended there. You got your JD from there, correct?
Correct.
And I know you received your master's degree music from Howard, correct?
Master's in music is from Cal State LA.
That's from Cal State LA.
Yes.
Well, I'll say. Hi. I see so many people coming in. Well, I do know that you are the conductor over several orchestras. The ICYOLA.
ICYOLA is the primary one. There are a couple. There's one other that I'm working on, but the truth of the matter is that production is on hold because COVID kind of slammed us to the ground. So
right.
Really, ICYOLA is really where I do my work right now. The
okay, so ICYOLA is your main. ICYOLA is your main orchestra. But at one point, you were working with the South Side of Chicago Orchestra, but due to the COVID, that was kind of like put on hold. So many people.
We still have it. We still have the South Side, but it is on hold. That's right. COVID. The COVID pandemic really slammed us and put us on hold, and we have not recovered from that yet. Los Angeles is recovering very, very nicely, and we hope to get back to Chicago sometime soon.
Oh, okay. Okay, wonderful, 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 wonderful. Well, as I was reading over your bio, because I noticed you also work with the Rolling Hills Estate in Palos Verdes, correct? The United Methodist? Is it a Methodist church or?
I'm the director of music at Rolling Hills United Methodist Church.
Right. Okay, that's awesome. And you have a program that's coming up.
That church is located in the city. Rolling Hills Estates.
Okay.
But it is the United Methodist Church. And yes, I direct the church choir there. I'm the director of music. And among things that I do is direct the church choir. And every holiday season, we produce two pretty significant concerts during the Christmas season and during the Easter season. We produce significant concerts around each of those holidays. And yes, Easter is, believe it or not, coming pretty quickly. So we're getting ready for Easter season concert right now.
Okay, wonderful. So some of the questions that I was thinking as I was reading your bio, and you have such an extensive music background, one of the first things I wanted to know was, when did you discover you had a love for music? And the other question as well is, what was your first instrument?
Okay. So when did I first discover I had a love for music? See, you have to know my background to understand this. Both of my parents were musicians. And I have two elder brothers, and the eldest of those is a professional jazz pianist, and he's 8 years my senior. So when I was born, I came home from the hospital. My father was the director of the church choir. My mother was a singer in the church choir. Both my parents played the piano. And so when I came home from the hospital from being born, I was in a house where there was a piano, and three people in that house already playing that piano: my father, my mother, and my eldest brother. So I didn't have an epiphany or a discovery that I really loved music
Okay.
to a home where music essentially was required of all of of the children in that home, and music was constantly, it was a constant presence in that home. And so I didn't have
Hmm.
a when it became clear to me, oh, music's a path for me. Music was
Okay.
infused. Music was infused to my life, into my life,
Right.
the moment I got home from the hospital, from being born.
Right. So it's I guess you can almost say that it's in your DNA basically because your family
Well,
were well.
yeah, well, no, that's a good point. You see, I am one who questions whether music gets passed down through genetics, or whether
Hmm.
it's that we learn that we're born with a clean slate and we learn it. And I was just in an environment where it was so heavily practiced that I haven't. And I don't know. You know, there are there there are other families that have had long lines of people who do music seriously.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and the question then becomes, well, do they learn this music because they're in a home where music is a constant, or is there
Hmm.
some
Hmm.
passing of this ability through genetics? I happen to not believe. I don't adhere to the idea that it's passed down through some kind of inherent process. I really do think it's primarily environmentally based rather than uh, uh, genetically based.
Right. Okay. That's fair. That's
Now, you
fair.
also
So you grew up in the
you also asked
uh-huh.
first my first instrument. My parents put me in piano lessons when I was 3 years old. So once again, before I even know how, I guess before I even know how to say no, um, and I say that kind of parenthetically, not realistically. I certainly I could say no by the time I was three, but I couldn't really seriously object to what my parents were having me do. So
Um,
started piano lessons at three. I'm in my 70s now. I've been playing the piano for at least 68 years, and there's not been a time in my life that I don't remember playing the piano, because I just don't remember much of what happened in my life prior to the time I was 3 years old. And by the way, I want to make a point here. Um, I really believe very, very strongly, particularly for those people who might be listening to this podcast who are parents, that the younger you put your child into a music program, and I strongly advocate a piano program, the better off you are, better off your child is.
wow. Now, why do you, is it just because it's easier for them to adapt to it when they're younger, or is it because, why the piano, first of all, that you suggest that they get into a piano program?
So,
And, okay,
and
go ahead.
okay, why
Oh,
the piano?
oh, yeah, why the piano?
All right, first of all, because the piano is one of the very few instruments that requires you to learn both treble clef and bass clef. Now, what do I mean by
Mm,
bass clef? Well, okay, let me give you a couple of examples that I use when I teach. Most people would recognize that most women's voices have a higher pitch than most
mhm,
men. Women have voices that are generally categorized as soprano and alto, and
okay,
they're pretty they're high in the pitch range, whereas men
okay,
are tenor and bass low in the pitch range. And in the pitch range, we have a dividing line. Just like in the world, we have an equator. The equator divides the northern hemisphere from the southern hemisphere. In music, we have an equator, and that equator we call middle C. Things that are above middle C, we call treble clef. Things that are below middle
right,
C, we call bass clef. Another way to
right,
envision is just look at your
right,
body. You have a navel or a waistline. Things above the waistline are, above, we
right.
call things below the waistline, we call bass. And piano, to play the piano, you have to learn both treble and bass. Whereas with most other instruments, you're only learning one, a treble line or a line. Uh, and if you're a singer, you're usually singing either you're singing one, and you're singing either a treble line or a bass line. And then there's another aspect about playing the piano that you get that you don't get in any other instrument. You play both melody and harmony at the same time. What do I mean by that? Well, everybody can recognize certain melodies, like, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb,
Right.
the melody.
Right.
But also all kinds of other harmonies that can go along with that Mary had a little lamb melody. And you learn both melody and harmony when you play the piano. You learn to play the melody as well as to match it with a chorus harmony. And so for those reasons, if none other, the idea that you have to learn both treble clef and bass clef when you play the piano, and you learn how to play both melody and harmony at the same time. Those are two reasons why I strongly advocate that if you're going to put a child into a music program, start them with piano, because it's the most comprehensive way to learn the two concepts that I've given to you right now: the treble clef, bass clef, number one, and melody and harmony, number two.
Awesome. So,
I hope that
as you,
I hope that wasn't too complex of an answer.
No, I understood everything.
Okay.
I took music theory in college, so certain things, and then growing up, and growing up, actually, I grew up in church and always in the choir, and then I was in the performing choir from Chicago, Soul Children of Chicago. So you when you're induced in music, you certain things you learn. So I get it. I do see a request. Somebody's asking, Satchmo is requesting to come in, and there's going to be a point in the program where I'm going to bring whatever questions you all have. I will most definitely bring in. So just hold on for a moment. The other thing that you mentioned about a young, starting them off young. So I know there's ICYOLA, Inner City Youth Orchestra, and then you have Inner City Youth Academy. Can you tell us a little bit from what I read, the Academy, you started them off pretty young, right?
Well, the real difference is, that we run both the orchestra program and our teaching program, which is our academy program, out of the same place. The office is where I'm sitting right now. But essentially, the academy is a program directed toward actually teaching how to play an instrument. We're running programs through various boys and girls clubs around Los Angeles. We also have, just really starting right now, a brand new beginning violin program. And these are programs that are run through our education program that we call the ICYOLA Academy. Now, the ICYOLA Orchestra is really focused on presenting music, preparing music for presentation, a concert. And we present a series of concerts throughout every year. That's what the orchestra does. So that's really the only distinction. The orchestra does the performance. The academy focuses on teaching how to play the instrument.
When you first started in your music career, as far as conducting, what were some of the challenges that you found yourself having to face and deal with when you first started? Or maybe name three or two, or the biggest.
Story. Let me tell you a story. I began conducting as a choir conductor, and I have emerged through the years to be more of an orchestral conductor. I do more orchestral conducting now than I did previously, and before I did much more choral conducting. So what was the biggest challenge? What I did not know, the very first time I had a job to conduct a choir, and I went to just about my first choir rehearsal, honestly, I pulled out some music that was probably difficult. And I did not realize that it was difficult. What I did not realize at the time was when I handed the music out to the choir that I had at the time, the choir did not read. Meaning by that, the members of the choir could not read the music, couldn't read the notes. And the biggest challenge that I had at that time was just realizing that my job really was pretty much focused on teaching the people in that choir how the melody went, how the harmony went, without them being able to read music. And over the course of years, Another challenge is to try to actually teach how to read music. But until they could read how to read the music, these people were basically listening to, I would play out a melody and they would have to listen to it and essentially memorize the melody. This is what we call teaching by rote, R-O-T-E. And so the biggest challenge I had was I had so much experience by the time I began conducting in terms of reading music and preparing music and practicing music, that for me to immediately deal with a group of people who had no concept of what those dots on the paper meant, it was a challenge for me. And that's a challenge I had to overcome really pretty quickly if I was going to keep my job as a conductor, because it's important for me to be able to produce an ensemble that could make the sound that we wanted to make. So I had to learn pretty quickly, Chuck, you got to step
up your game.
well, no, that's what I said. You got to step back and go back to the fundamentals of music when you are teaching people who don't have a great facility in understanding how to read.
Right, right. So you say you was conducting a choir, basically.
Yes.
And when did you start conducting orchestra?
Oh, well, okay. So I began, the first time I conducted an orchestra was I had a job as the director of music at a church in 1975. And,
okay.
And when we were getting ready for Christmas, I decided we were going to do a production of Messiah by Handel. And so I was in an orchestra to be a part of the ensemble that presented that concert. So the first time I conducted an orchestra was in the context of conducting a church choir and bringing the orchestra in to be the accompaniment.
Okay.
After that, I didn't have an opportunity to actually take over an orchestra and just do an orchestra by itself without a choir until about 2004. And yeah, so this has been about 20 years that I've really had the privilege and honor of just conducting orchestras, doing orchestral work.
Wow. That's amazing. So how did ICYOLA come about? How did Inner City Youth come about?
All right. So in 2004, I take over as the conductor of the Southeast Symphony. This is a professional orchestra here in Los Angeles that really began in the year 1948 as a means to try to provide a place where people of color, Black people particularly, could play in an orchestra. And that was important at that time because we were not getting jobs in the music studios of the movies here in Los Angeles. And let me go back for a moment. If you've ever seen great movies of the 1940s and 50s, Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, Lawrence of Arabia, these movies have fantastically great music, great orchestral scores. And even today, the great movies have great orchestral scores. I mean, Star Wars, one of the first things you think about in Star Wars is the music. And that
absolutely
a great orchestral score. Well, in the 40s and 50s, Black people were not getting the opportunity to play in the orchestras that produced the music for these movies. And so a group of Black music school teachers in the Los Angeles Unified School District came together and said, we're going to create an orchestra where young people who would aspire to have those opportunities to play in those orchestras to back up movies, they would have the experience and the knowledge about how to do that. And so that began the Southeast Symphony. Well, the Southeast Symphony in about 1990 began a program to actually teach young people how to play orchestral music. And there was a junior orchestra, and that junior orchestra thrived for a few years, but it started to have its challenges around 2009. And one of the members of that youth orchestra in that year, 2009, Daquan Robinson, came to me and said, Mr. Would you work with me? Would you work with us young people? And we would like to basically form a youth orchestra within our own community. That was in June of 2009, and that's how the Inner City of Los Angeles got started.
Wow, that is awesome. And it's now has over 100 members, correct?
That's right. Every year, we operate our organization basically kind of around the school year, so that we
Oh,
kind of think about you're starting right after Labor Day, right in September, and we usually go
mhm.
through the month of July. So we have August off, but
Mm.
going from September to July is almost kind of like going along with the school year. Well, so we and by the way, that tends to be the schedule for most orchestras. An orchestra season usually starts around September and runs to June. The LA Phil does that. They have a summer program that,
Okay.
like out at the Hollywood Bowl, but that's
Oh,
a separate season. But a usual orchestral season begins around September. So we run our program kind of concurrent with the way that other orchestras run theirs, concurrent with the
okay.
school. And every
Okay.
school we kind of start all over again, and not in terms of once you're in, once you're in our orchestra, you're in. You don't
Mhm.
have to come every year and re-sign up, but we really encourage young people to start at the beginning of the school year with us, so that yes, now this school year of 23-24, we have about 120 to 125 young people who are regular participants in our orchestra.
That's a that's wonderful. That's a blessing. Now, do they have to audition for the orchestra, or how does it go?
Well, that's
They
something
don't have
that's
to.
that's something that distinguishes us from just about any other orchestra that I know of. Just about
Mhm.
every other, in fact, every orchestra that I know of, yes, you have to audition, except for ours. And part of the reason for this is because we don't want to reject anybody. We don't want to turn anybody away. We don't want anybody to walk in and say, this is not for me. Especially if they walk in the door, that indicates an interest in the first place. And we do not want to do anything to depress that interest. So you walk in the door, you're part of the family. Now,
I love
we
it.
understand very clearly that not everybody who walks in that door can necessarily play at the level where they're ready to play with the orchestra. So we send
Right.
so we send them to our academy. And at our academy, they get instructed. They get instruction, and they get instructed by instructors who are helping them to learn how to play more proficiently. And when they get to the point where they can play with the orchestra, we promote them right in there and pull out another chair and give them a seat, and here they are.
That is such a blessing. That is great because I had read for the Los Angeles Philharmonic Youth Symphony, you have to audition for that one, and versus with ICYOLA, you don't have to audition, but you're willing to train them to get them to the level of the orchestra. That is wonderful.
But
Is it?
you see, that's what's needed in our community. Our community,
Yes.
all too often, we in some aspects of our lives we are still a little bit behind, um, and music of this nature is one area where we still lag behind what the standard generally is. So we think of ourselves as having a duty to see to it that young people who are interested in this have an opportunity to learn, and we'll provide them that opportunity to learn within our organization.
That is so that is such a good thing. Now, when it comes to the instruments, are they donated or do they come with their own instruments or how does that work?
So many of the young people who come and join us can play already, and they are playing already, and they have an instrument, and that's
Okay.
wonderful, great, and fine. However, for
Mhm.
those who do not have an instrument, we will provide one for you.
Wow, that is nice. That is how long does it usually take for when, say, for instance, when a child comes into the organization that is not proficient as the rest of the orchestra? Normally, how many months or years does it take before they're actually incorporated into the main orchestra?
That varies child to child. It depends on
Mhm.
committed they are to learning their instrument
Practicing,
and practicing.
right?
So I don't know that I have a real calculated answer for you there about how long
Right.
it usually takes. It really depends on
Um,
and if you want to really get in there and work hard, it might
right.
take you less than those who are more lax.
Right. Oh, okay. So it does, it really, it's an individual choice for that child to commit themselves to putting in the work that they need in order to be a part of the bigger group. So
And
that makes sense.
not just
And
not just the child, but also the parent.
that's true too.
And we all recognize that so many people have so many different things to do in their lives today. There's so many
Right.
opportunities for kids to do so many different things. But if the child and the parent really want to commit to making this happen, it'll happen a lot faster uh, than if they don't.
Right. So I know I noticed that you had conducted a piece for the Martin Luther King Memorial, the dedication, the unveiling of the statue. Uh, what was that like? And I mean, you composed a piece specifically for the speech. If I'm not mistaken?
Let me
How
explain
was that?
that.
How was
Let me explain that. What happened was starting about, I want to say around 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in that general area, we, at the time, the Southeast Symphony, were getting consistent calls. And I guess we started ICYOLA in 2009. So about 2008, 9, 10, somewhere along there, we were getting consistent calls. In fact, before that, it was maybe as early as 2002, 3, and 4. We were getting calls from organizations to provide music for Martin Luther King holiday. And
Oh, okay.
we found ourselves doing the same music over and over again.
Mhm.
And none of it really, in my view, spoke to Dr. King or any of his words or what he uh, necessarily stood for. Yeah, we could do, music that kind of halfway celebrated his birthday. But, his most iconic speech was the I Have a Dream speech delivered
Right.
in 1963 at the on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. So what I did is I took words and I set them to music for chorus and orchestra, so that
Mhm.
we could on Martin Luther King Day at least present his most iconic words in music through
Mhm.
the I Have a Dream composition, which I composed in 2010 or 11, somewhere along it was there.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so just about every King Day now, we just about
Mhm.
every day we present a performance of I Have a Dream.
That is that is wonderful. And there was one other thing. I know I read that you all had did a. Oh, go
Can,
ahead.
can I add one more thing about this?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I want to share with you that what I've also done recently is since 2021, when Amanda Gorman recited her poem, "The Hill We Climb," at the inauguration of then Senator, well, I guess Vice President Biden to become president of the United States. Um, I took her words and set them to music for chorus and orchestra as well. And this past Martin Luther King weekend, we made two presentations of that piece, "The Hill We Climb," which is again Amanda Gorman's poem.
Yeah, I had a chance. It was beautiful. I had a chance to hear it at the Skirball Culture Center. So I
There.
was there. I was there. It was lovely. Very nice. Um, I know another highlight of ICOLA was you all had an opportunity to perform at the NFL
Oh
Honors. The NFL,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. How did that happen?
Well, I used to say that we were lucky. Someone finally told me, Chuck, no, none of this is a result of luck, and they're right. It's really the result of just hard work and preparing our ensemble and getting the word out about us. Well, it happened that a couple years ago, this is now 24, I think it was 22. the National Football League had the Super Bowl here at the new SoFi Stadium here in Inglewood. And,
You're right, they did, yeah.
and as they came out, they said, well, I need to say one more thing before I get to the bottom line. When Super Bowl is held, always held on a Sunday, the Thursday before Super Bowl, the Thursday before Super Bowl is always NFL honors award show. They give out the most player award at that show, the NFL Player of the Year at that show, Coach of the Year, all that kind of thing. So the Thursday night before Super Bowl here in Los Angeles, they had that show, and they decided 2022 that they were going to have an orchestra for that show. So they started looking around for an orchestra, and they found us. They found us and gave us a call and said, well, we're coming to LA. We're going to do the award show, the awards honor show, and we'd like to have a pit orchestra. Would you be interested? And you might, we said, of course.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Got to do that show, and that was really a lot of fun. It was a hard day. We worked hard on that. We had several rehearsals, obviously, leading up to it to prepare, but also the day of was kind of an intense day. But and the bottom line was we had a great time.
That's wonderful. So, do you or the kids, do they ever get a little nervous before such a big performance, or they just flow with it?
I've been nervous, I want to say, one time.
Okay.
When I was about to conduct something major. And you know why?
Okay.
I was nervous because I wasn't prepared. And I knew it. The only that I get nervous anytime that I'm doing music anymore is when I know I'm not prepared. I don't allow that to happen anymore. I don't allow myself to go into a concert not being prepared.
Right.
The night before, just preparing myself to make sure if I have to. It usually doesn't come down to that. But no, I don't think the young people in the orchestra or myself get nervous just because big performance coming up.
It's second nature. You're used to doing and performing in front of big, very important crowds, I guess you can say. So,
really want to focus on this point of if you know what you're doing, if you know what the notes are, and you've practiced them time and time again, and you can play them in rehearsal, what's there to get nervous?
Exactly. It's just like any performance. As when you know your lines, you know your lines. You just get up there and perform and be on stage. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I want to talk about. I know you have a documentary, a film about the orchestra. It's Chuck. This orchestra Chuck built. Is that the name of it?
The orchestra Chuck built. Yes.
Yes. I want to see it. How do I get a chance to see it? But tell me about it first.
Okay. Right now, Well, let me give you a little bit of background because I love telling this story.
Okay.
During the middle of COVID, of the worst of the COVID pandemic, I think it was 2021. Once again, once again, out of the clear blue, we received a telephone call. I want to tell you about that telephone. You have to bear with me for a minute because this is a story, but it's a great story. What happened? Was a woman, I'll tell you her first name. Her name was Marianne. Marianne called us late one night. She is a film producer. She was in the midst of producing a film entitled If Anything Happens, I Love You. It is an animated movie. Okay? She was about to finish her movie when at the last moment, the people who were going to do the music for the movie, another orchestra, backed out. And she was in a quandary. I need an orchestra to finish my music. She told me this story. She said she went online and was just looking for different orchestras and she found ours. She called and we answered the phone. Nobody else answered the phone. I guess it was late at night or something. And one of our assistants answered the phone and immediately hooked Marianne up with me. And Marianne told me what the problem was and she needed help. Would we come and help? So we did. We went and did and helped her create the music for that movie. And she finished the movie and got it out on time. Well, let me tell you this. That movie won the Oscar for Best Animated Short of that year. So when we were done with all this, Marianne says to me, Chuck, I want to do a documentary about your movie, about your orchestra. So who am I to say no? So I said, well,
Right,
sure. So
exactly. Wow.
she hired a filmmaker who then came in, took a whole bunch of film and wrote a little script. And he and they created this movie about us. It is a 22-minute documentary short entitled The Orchestra Chuck Built. Now, if you want to see it, right now it's on the film festival circuit. So let me share with you that if you want to see it right away, it's going to be part of the Pan-African Film Festival this year.
I plan to be there.
So there'll be two showings of it. The first showing will be Friday night, the 9th of February, which is a week from this Friday, at 6:30 at the Pan-African Film Festival. And the second showing will be Saturday, the 17th of February. And I encourage you to go to the website of the Pan-African Film Festival and look up their schedule, and you will see that the Orchestra Chuck Built is being featured for two showings, Friday the 9th and Saturday the 17th.
Wonderful. That is wonderful. Congratulations. Now that's really exciting too.
It's a blessing. It's a real blessing because we didn't ask.
Yes, it is.
We didn't ask for this. We weren't trying to get a movie of us made, but fortunately,
no.
Somebody else thought that there was value in our story, and so here it is.
And that just goes to show too, because you were willing to answer. You just never know where the next opportunity is going to come for you. And because you were willing at the last minute to step in and help this filmmaker out, she in turn, and then won an Oscar. That probably was another way of her paying it forward back to you all, because I mean, you get what I'm saying. And then so she was like, I got to do something with them, And so, wow. So you are etched in screen in Hollywood. You are etched in screen in Hollywood. So that is wonderful. What a blessing. I plan to see it, because when I discovered that you had a documentary, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I want to see this. And so, yeah, I was just like, oh my goodness, I saw you all perform last year at the season finale at the Walt Disney Center. And that was my first time. I went with a friend. She had seen you all perform, and she was I was blown away because it was my first time. And ever since then, I was ICYOLA.
We're going to be at Disney Hall again this year on July 14th. And we are preparing for that right now. This year, have you ever heard of the music entitled Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin?
Yes, I have.
You would know it the minute you hear it. This year happens to be the 100th anniversary of the premiere performance of that piece of music. And so, among other things that we will be performing at Disney Hall this year on July 14th is a performance of Rhapsody in Blue. So tell everybody now. In fact, everybody listening now, mark your calendars.
Yes. Yes.
3:00 in the afternoon, Walt Disney Concert Hall. Be there.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Other thing, I'm going to open the floor up for those of you who have questions. I know somebody wants to come into the room and ask you a question, but while I'm preparing to do that, to bring people into the room, the other thing I mentioned, I had read that you had composed or did arrangements of Duke Ellington's music and worked with Stevie Wonder. Hi. Can you tell us a little bit about something about that?
Well, yeah. Now, I want to be clear. We have not worked with Stevie Wonder.
Oh,
but we did.
Okay.
But we've done a tribute to him, and we've done a tribute to Whitney Houston, to Michael Jackson, to Luther Vandross, to Nat King Cole, to Aretha Franklin. We've done tributes to all of these fantastic stars by performing a big tribute to stations last year. A few years back, we did a whole review of music by Motown. And yes, of course, we've done the music of Duke Ellington. Some of Duke Ellington's music has already been arranged for orchestra, and we have done that. But there's also quite a bit of his music that has not been arranged for orchestra that we think needs to be heard. So part of what I have done is arrange some of that music, some of Duke Ellington's music for orchestra, so we could play it. And we did that featuring, I think we featured Duke Ellington's music at Walt Disney Concert as far back as 2008 at the Walt Disney Concert Hall.
Nice.
So among the things that we did is he wrote the song, geez, I can't even remember it now. It was about dance. David danced. David up and danced, referring to David in the Bible.
Okay, you're right.
It says David up and danced, and Duke Ellington wrote that piece. He wrote a piece of it, and so then I orchestrated it so that the orchestra could play it, and we played it at Disney Hall, and we hired some dancers to come in and actually dance to that music, including a real fun tap dancer who came in and tap danced to David Up and Danced by Duke Ellington.
Oh, okay. So how cool, how wonderful. I know the other thing is that congratulations. I know that you received funding from the city for a new building, correct? For your own facility, basically. And
state of California, not the city. From the
state of California.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And just put it out there, I know that for those of you all who may be interested in supporting ICYOLA, please follow them on Instagram. Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles. They're on there. Please follow them. You are in the midst of also planning to continue to raise more funds, correct, for other things that you all need.
But let me talk about that.
Okay, go ahead.
So right now, since 2011, 12, somewhere right along in there, we began holding rehearsals in the fellowship hall at Knox Presbyterian Church in Los Angeles. And I want you to know, I'm so grateful to the people at Knox because they've treated us so well. We've been able to rehearse there for the last 12, 13 years. But also there's some limitations because, it's a church and they have their own programs. They need their fellowship hall at times when we would like to be able to have it and can't always get it. For instance, they might have a wedding reception that they need to use the fellowship hall for, and we might want to have it at the same time for rehearsal. Well, we have to defer to them, of course. So we thought of value for us to get a place of our own so that we wouldn't run into these kinds of conflicts. So we asked Senator Stephen Bradford, California State Senator Steve Bradford, for a grant from the state of California to give us money to purchase a building. And lo and behold, he did exactly that. He gave us a grant of $7 million. And out of that $7 million, we have been designated to spend 5 of it toward a building. So we used 3 of that 5 to purchase a building. That leaves $2 million that we still have sitting in the bank because we need to do some renovations to the building. The renovations are going to run somewhere between $6 and $7 million. So we have 2 in the bank. We're going to have to raise yet another $4 or $5 million to get everything done that we're going to get done. But we're going to raise that money and we're going to build that building. And when we're done with it, we're going to have programs available to the entire community.
Right. And I would love to help in whichever way that I can to help you guys get that money because write
that big fat check. Sorry. Write that big fat check you got.
Hey, speak it so I can do it. I would love to be in the position like, here, what you need, bam. Yes, speak it into existence. Yes, may those doors open so I can put my part in. So, um, so, uh, so that's going to take obviously some fundraising for this to happen. I'm sure it would be nice, but you accept those individual donations as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Oh yes, most definitely. So if Tyler Perry or what's his name, Robert Smith or Oprah or Rihanna, Cardi B, hey, all
Or Will Smith
or Will
or
Smith,
LeBron
all you all,
or any of them. If they
any,
want, now we're kind of laughing about this, but I'm also a little bit serious. You know what the work that we are doing. I want to emphasize this point. What we are striving to do is create excellence in our community.
yes,
And we use music as the way to teach excellence and to perform excellence and to allow young people to experience excellence. So
yes, yes,
if,
I love it.
if we have people in our community who are interested in trying to help our young people become excellent young people, one of our mantras is
Yes,
we create first chair musicians and first class citizens. If we have people in our community who are interested in helping us create first chair musicians and first class people who will use
yes,
values and the skills that they learn from music in all aspects of,
mhm,
then those are the people who, very frankly, we hope will come to be supporters of the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles. And we can laugh about it as much as we want, but I mean this as seriously as I can.
oh, I'm
I
serious.
know you are, so am I. We still, when I say we, I'm going to talk about African Americans. We still rank at the bottom of scores in schools. Um,
hmm,
in the L Unified School District and just about every other district around, not just the state, but the country. If you look at
mhm,
the scores of our young people as compared to others, we're still at the bottom. When you look at
hmm,
compare about where we as a people are in terms of our socioeconomic achievement in this country, we're still at the bottom. When we
yeah,
talk about just about any measure of success and progress in our country. Yes, we've had a black president, and yes, we currently have a black woman vice president, but we are still, by and large, very much at the bottom of this society. One of the primary things that we as ICYOLA seek to do is to lift us from this bottom paradigm, from this bottom status, from this bottom place into a higher level in our community, in our society. If we can do that, we will save so many of our young people from going down into the dregs of our society. So if people are interested in trying to support an organization that is dedicated to the excellence of our community, the uplifting of our community, then this is the place where we would ask, this is the time that we would ask for them to come forward and frankly put their money where their hearts are.
as yes, yes, and amen. I stand in agreement, and I'm believing with you that that is going to happen. And I declare and decree it's coming from the east, the west, the north, and the south. So I'm in agreement with you. So awesome. So what I'm going to do now is someone wants to come into the room, so I'm bringing you in. And if anybody else want to, just let me know, and I will send you the invite, and you can ask him whatever questions. There's T. She wants to come in. Let me see who else, and one other person. Um, let's see.
May I, while you're doing that, I see that somebody put up here something that says it would be great if we could do a telethon. I want you to know we are blessed to have on our board Marcus Smith. And Marcus is the executive director of KLA News. He's on our board. And Marcus is working
No.
getting on program where we can raise.
Hey, Mr.
Oh,
Charles.
okay.
So one question.
Someone. Okay. Wait. Someone is coming in. Go ahead, T. Maybe she went out, but go ahead. Go ahead and ask your question.
Mr. Charles, I have one question. With all that you do in the community, what keeps you inspired and keep going and going hard as you do? Because even just listening to you talk, I can tell you going hard for the kids in the community. So what keeps you inspired?
Thank you for asking that question. That's easy. It's the young people I have the privilege of working with. I said it before. I'm now in my 7th decade of life. I'm in my 70s. I want to stay as young as I can for as long as I can. And you know what keeps me young? These kids I get to work with. I don't know what they know in terms of contemporary society, but they keep me young. And fortunately, they treat me with such dignity and respect.
Wow.
And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, and you don't look like you're in your 70s. So
no, he really doesn't. When you said that, I was like, really?
Whatever they doing it right, because you definitely don't look
Thank you.
it. But that's good to know.
Thank you.
So that's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing, and it keeps your energy up. You stay current because they keep you up. Rick says, amen. Rick, do you want to come in? Anybody else have any more questions? Just let me know. I'll bring you into the room if you want to come in. So, somebody, okay. So, who would you like to work with? Are there any other artists you would like to work with, or any other conductors?
So I got word for you. Now I have people on my staff me up to telling you this because we have not signed a contract, but we have for our Disney Hall concert this year. You heard me already say we're going to do Rhapsody in Blue,
Right.
But we're also every year we have done music at our Disney Hall concert that gives tribute to somebody from our community. Like we've done Whitney, Stevie, Jackson, Luther, Vandross, blah blah. This year we're going to do the music of Kenny Lattimore, and
Kenny Lattimore. Oh,
we're hopeful that he will actually be on stage with us singing. So right now, you asked me who I'm looking forward to working with Kenny.
with Kenny. Okay, yeah, he's for you. I love his music. He's a great vocalist, and his music is just very nice. Yeah. Do you see yourself? Oh, let me ask you this. Do you see yourself in the orchestra composing or scoring any more soundtracks for films?
You won't believe this. You won't believe what I'm about to tell you. Tomorrow morning.
Oh, you know what?